Hello world, for the first time ever, hackers have been found using Morse code to encrypt their malicious files. The largest crypto hack of all time has taken place, $600 million was looted, and the hacker claims it was just for fun. That's in today's episode of The Week Web, where we break down and dissect cybersecurity related tech news. A strange year-long phishing campaign has been uncovered by Microsoft researchers. This is a weird one, in that it seems to be the very first example of hackers actively using Morse code to obfuscate their malicious files. It's somewhat genius when you think about it. What anti-malware software is programmed to be suspicious of a communication protocol invented in the 1830s to transmit data over telegraph lines? The scheme used malicious email attachments which were designed to look like Excel spreadsheets, given that they had XLS in the document name. In reality, they are HTML files. It's obvious to anyone with a trained eye, but these emails were aimed at Karen in accounting, not a company's IT department. These aren't the best crafted phishing emails I've ever seen. The sender email looks ever so slightly dubious, and the lack of content in the email body isn't too realistic. Nevertheless, the attachment itself is rather creatively put together. Opening the HTML file will of course have it pop up in a browser window, though in trying to preserve the Excel camouflage, a grayed out Excel document takes up the background, and a prompt appears asking the user to re-enter their Office 365 password, giving the illusion that the victim's login has timed out. If you fall for the trick, your password will be exfiltrated to a hacker-controlled server. It's not quite clear how they proceed from here, though given the current trend, utilising the Office 365 account to stage some kind of a ransomware type scenario would be my guess. In this attack, the bad actors were particularly adept at changing their code obfuscation techniques, with Microsoft noting that over the year-long escapade, the attackers changed obfuscation and encryption mechanisms every 37 days on average, demonstrating high motivation and skill to constantly evade detection and keep the credential theft operation running. This is where the Morse code comes in. It was one of the many encryption methods employed by the bad actors. As evident in JavaScript embedded within the malicious HTML file, a section of the JavaScript maps Morse code to ASCII characters. A long string underneath contains a block of code the hackers here have hidden using Morse code. As Bleeping Computer explains, the script then calls a decode Morse function to decode the Morse code into a hexadecimal string. This hexadecimal string is further decoded into JavaScript tags that are injected into the HTML page. Other than this being a bit of fun for the attackers to implement, the reason for going to these lengths was to evade automatic malware detection mechanisms in place on the victim PC, which scan files for dodgy looking code. Though of course to anyone with a bit of knowledge, the contents of this HTML file do look rather sus. As usual with write-ups like this, Microsoft's analysis only really explains the mechanism of this attack. We are in the dark as to whether anyone actually fell for this phishing campaign. Whilst Microsoft have only just published their write-up, this was rumbled on Reddit about 6 months ago. Unfortunately, Microsoft hasn't attributed this campaign to any known threat actor, so we don't know who was behind it. This video is sponsored by NextPCB, your reliable multi-layer boards manufacturer. NextPCB is offering trial orders of up to 10 PCBs for free. That's right, just upload your Gerbers and let NextPCB do all of the technical calculations for you. You only pay shipping. They're also offering all of you guys a free $100 coupon just for signing up. NextPCB is the perfect solution for all of your PCB fabrication needs, from small personal projects to larger scale production runs. Check them out in the description to claim your free PCBs. In the last few days, the largest crypto hack ever took place. $600 million were stolen from Poly Network. This is a strange story. The perpetrator claims he was doing people a favor by stealing the coins, and that he couldn't trust anyone to fix the vulnerability that he had discovered, and that by looting the crypto, in his words, he was saving the world. He also adds that it was done for fun. And yes, I'm just as confused as you. The victim, Poly Network, is a decentralized finance platform that facilitates peer-to-peer transactions with a focus on allowing users to transfer or swap tokens across different blockchains. This is the largest crypto hack of all time, at least in terms of the value of the spoils in US dollars at the time of the intrusion. But how did our crypto hacker here plunder this fortune? I'm going to keep this explanation as simple as possible. If you're a crypto connoisseur and want to have a much more detailed low-level analysis, check the sources in the description. This wasn't a trivial hack, only made possible because someone reused a password or opened some email attachments they probably shouldn't have. No, the miscreants took advantage of a vulnerability in a Poly Network smart contract. As IBM explains, smart contracts are simply programs stored on a blockchain that run when predetermined conditions are met. One basic example could be facilitating a loan. Smart contracts have the potential to be incredibly useful because they're automatic, cheap, fast, and generally inordinately more efficient than traditional contracts executed by centralized organizations. The hack itself was made possible due to a mismanagement of the access rights between two important polysmart contracts. The hacker essentially tricks the network into thinking he had certain privileges, enabling him to transfer large amounts of crypto held by the network. This was all done without needing to compromise any private keys. So, $600 million richer, presumably the perp will be spending the rest of his days on some private island being hand-fed peeled grapes by his many wives. Not quite. Given the blockchain is public, transactions are traceable, meaning any movement of the loot would be trackable. And whilst crypto mixing services exist, which aim to launder coins tainted by illegal activities, $600 million worth of crypto is way too much to launder. It's an almost impossible feat. The bad actor here has swiped a worthless fortune. Poly Network asked miners and exchanges to blacklist the wallets holding the stolen funds. Soon after, Tether froze $33 million worth of coins. Tether is a stablecoin. These coins aim to keep their value tied to a certain fiat currency like the dollar. As such, they usually reserve the right to freeze crypto wallets at will in order to remain compliant with regulators. The writing was on the wall for our hacker at the center of this plot. Quickly realizing he'd never be able to enjoy his fortune, he decided to radically change tactics, or at least that's what it looks like. He ended up returning pretty much all of the crypto. By releasing a Q&A embedded within the blockchain, he explained his thoughts. He claimed this was done for fun and transferred the tokens to keep them safe. Usually it's the done thing for white hat hackers to report bugs they find in the wild to the developers. Though our hacker goes on to say, asking the project team politely so they can fix it, anyone could be the traitor given 1 billion. I can trust nobody. The only solution I can come up with is saving it in a trusted account. Now this doesn't come across as very believable. Shortly after the initial hack, the attackers seemingly tried to exchange their holdings of a centralized stablecoin, USDC, for a decentralized one like DAI, in order to decrease the chances of the funds being frozen. When asked in the Q&A why he would do such a thing if his goal was to simply keep the coin safe, he responded, "I was pissed by the Poly team for their initial response. They urged others to blame and hate me before I had a chance to reply. I mean, come on, you reckon you can just steal $600 million worth of crypto and think people will give you the benefit of the doubt?" His response here, and the whole Q&A in general, just screams teenage angst. He seems really immature and turbulent. In exchange for returning the cash, the Poly Network team quite surprisingly told the miscreant, "We believe that your action is white hat behavior. We plan to offer you a $500,000 reward." And added, "We assure you that you will not be accountable for this incident." Now I'm just guessing of course, but it sounds like the Poly Network team was so sure this hack meant Armageddon for them, to suddenly start receiving the crypto back bit by bit, it must have felt like a miracle. With most of the crypto already returned, it seems to me that they wanted to encourage the culprits to return the rest, sweeten the deal and not give him a reason to change his mind. That being said, the bounty was refused by the hacker for reasons unknown. This hack exposes one of the major problems with crypto and smart contracts in particular. If there are exploitable bugs hidden within the underlying code, then all hell could break loose if someone manages to take advantage of the vulnerability. This is one reason why certain blockchain platforms like Cardano opt to put an emphasis on academic peer review to make sure code is thoroughly verified before it goes live. Let me know your thoughts on this saga in the comments. Were his intentions kosher all along, or do you think he just bit off more than he could chew, panicked and returned the crypto in an effort to make his life easier in the event he was caught? If you enjoyed this kind of video, make sure to help me out by tickling the like button for the YouTube AI, as well as turning on those sub notifications. If you're looking for something to watch next, go check out my previous video, which explores a new dark web marketplace's bizarre marketing ploy of releasing 1 million credit cards publicly to attract new customers. If you get a lot of value from this series of videos, do consider becoming a channel member. As always, sources will be linked in the video description. Stay tuned for more hacking videos, and have a good one.